Let's see. Oh no. Why does it do this all the time? It's like you fix stuff and it does what it wants to do in the subscription. Good morning. Good morning. Grand Rising, whatever people want to say. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm just trying to figure out here what's going on with the description. Please don't mind the description. Every single time I try. Good morning, Grand Rising, good day, everybody, on a beautiful Saturday, wherever you are. It is brisk where I am in the state of Texas. It's like in the 50s, so it's cold. Anyway, I hope that this is a Bible study, but this is a Bible study breaking down the cosmic psychology of the biblical text. Okay, this is not no traditional Bible study. This description is a little off, so this is what we're doing today. I'm really excited to bring this information to you all. Today we are talking about the story of creation and what it really means symbolically, the story of creation. So please don't forget to tap the likes before we get started. Let's do a few church announcements. Okay, I'm sorry. So make sure you tap the likes, because I think it helps somehow. I don't really understand how that happens. But it helps. And then to also just share the live if you found some kind of beneficial information, or if you know someone who really wants to get an understanding of like the symbology around the biblical text. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to reference a couple books here, and I know people have been watching my videos lately, and I've been reading out of one particular book, and everybody's been asking me, they're like, what book is this? What book is this? I need this book. I just put that book in my link today, so you can go directly to that. It says The Bible You Didn't Know You Needed. That's what that is. And this is one of the books we're going to be referencing out of today. This is the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. Okay. It's the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. And what metaphysical just means, it only means that you are studying things that are necessarily unseen, right? But the gag with this book, is that this book comes from the Unity School of Christianity. So if you ever get this book, and when I read you the stuff that's in this book, you're going to be like, holy shit. Literally, sacred shit, because that's what holy means, sacred shit. So the fact that this came from the Unity School of Christianity. And the gag about this is that this is the dictionary. They took all of the most utilized words that's within the biblical text, right? And they defined it. It was combed over and over again through the scholars to say, yes, this is likely what this symbology, what this allegory means, utilizing this particular book. Here's the thing. No. Here's the thing. This dictionary is utilized alongside of the Bible. So yes, we are going to be using the Bible as well. I have my New American Standard Bible. This book, these words, these definitions, they come from the teacher's edition of the Bible. So again, when I start going into the story about creation, when I start reading, because I'm going to read to you verbatim what some of this stuff says, and your mind is going to be blown. Because don't let it anger you though, but just realize the gravity of which we have been manipulated. Okay. So now, as far as using the biblical text, I do have the New American Standard, but I also have the King James Version. And the reason why I have that is because even though this text is very similar to the King James Version, sometimes it does change a word here and there. And when it changes a word here and there, it kind of takes away from what it really, like, it makes it a little confusing. So I still do have that. We're also going to reference the Kabbalah. And the reason why I'm referencing the Kabbalah is because out of the 12 universal laws, there's 7 that's in here, right? And so when we get into the story of creation, we're going to start talking about the principle of correspondence, the principle of correspondence on different planes, like as above, so below, because in the creation story, the first beginning, when we go into Genesis chapter 1, verses 1, it talks about, and what it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? So we know logically, actually, let's just get into the text. So we know logically that there's sky, which we refer to as heaven, and then there is the earth, which is the plane, the physical plane that we live on. Here's the gag. In the creation stories, there are 4 major concepts of these stories, right? There's the creation of heaven and earth, which is I just talked about in the Genesis chapter 1, verses 1. And then there's 2 naked people, Adam and Eve. There is the Garden of Eden. And then there's a talking snake. Those are the 4 main components of this text, right? Here's the thing. The creator, whether people call it Yeshua, Jeshua, God, Jehovah, Allah, whatever the case may be, there's only one. The Kabbalah references the Most High, which I like to refer to as the great intellectual mind. The Kabbalah teaches us that we are all in existence from a thought of the ultimate one creator. So no matter whoever wants to deify, whoever they want to deify, whoever they want to acknowledge, because honestly, when we deify different people, we really we're making them demigods, if that makes sense. There's just one, okay? So the Kabbalah also states that we are, not only is there one cosmic mind, but we are a replication of that cosmic being. Not that we are equal, not that we are same, we are replications of that. So we have just because we are physical matter, we are subject to flaws because we are not the creator. We're just replications. The creator is the only one that creates. We think that we create. We multiply. Men and women, we get together and we multiply. Okay, so that's also what the Kabbalah teaches us. And then also one thing about the Kabbalah is it references the cosmic all, or the all, which we refer to as the Most High or God, as having both masculine and feminine aspects, which I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Because when we're still talking about the creation story in the book of Genesis, we're going to go to chapter 1, verses 27. If you are following along with me, it says, God created man in his own image. Didn't I say we were replications? In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them. So I guess it's the little interpretation. You can interpret that whatever the way that you want to. However, when I read this text, when I read other texts, and it's saying that we also, even in Hebrew, let me backtrack. Even in Hebrew, Elohim is God, right? But Elohim in Hebrew represents both male and female, and they took that out of the text during the Dark Ages. Okay. Also, Yahweh, which is Hebrew, but it's also a made-up name. The YH in Yahweh represents male, and the WH in Yahweh represents female. So again, we are talking about that male-female. That's one. So wait till I start breaking this down to you and making you understand who Adam and Eve really is, okay? So I already talked about what I wanted to talk about with that. Let's go. Y'all know I do the notes. I do my notes because I like to be organized. So when people's like, okay, well, we've all been taught in church, right? If you go to church, oh, what's God's name? They say, oh, God's name is Jesus. God's name is I am. The Most High is I am. I am that I am. Period. End of story. again, when we start attaching names to things, and this is something esoteric knowledge teaches us as well, this is our our conscious mind. We have this innate ability to want to identify everything. So we have to give God a name. We have to identify genders. That's a huge topic lately. We need to identify animals, just all these different variations of what we feel like we need to identify so we feel comfortable what is unknown to us, okay? So let's get into what heaven and earth is. Okay, remember to like, remember to share, please, because it helps. Whatever it's supposed to help, it helps. So what is heaven and hell? What is heaven? Heaven is the kingdom of heavens, is a state of consciousness in which the soul and the body are in harmony with the divine mind. So remember how I was giving you in that biblical text, Luke chapter 17, verses 20 through 21, how the kingdom is within? Not only is the kingdom within, not only is heaven is within, it's all around us. We have to change our consciousness in order to create heaven on earth, as above, so below. Okay, but here it flat out tells us in this other biblical dictionary, it says that heaven, the kingdom of heaven, is actually a harmony of the divine mind. It is a level of consciousness. So let me read you verbatim, because I want y'all to get the real stuff. The kingdom of heaven, or the heavens, is a state of consciousness in which the soul and the body are in harmony with the divine mind. Teachers of metaphysics find that their most difficult work is getting students to recognize that heaven is just a condition of the mind. Jesus evidently experienced like difficulty in making himself understood, which accounts for the numerous parables and comparisons that he gave of the kingdom. These were all illustrative of some conditions pertaining to the kingdom, and never did he describe it as a place located in some distant realm. In spite of these often repeated illustrations by Jesus showing the kingdom of heaven to be a state of consciousness, the great mass of Christians are today teaching that this is a place to which people who accept Jesus as their Savior will go when they die. There is no authority in the Bible for such doctrine. If such a place existed, Jesus would certainly have described it plainly instead of giving parable after parable and illustration after illustration, showing it to be a state of consciousness to be attained by man. In Matthew chapter 13, verses 31 through 33, and 44 through 52, there are 5 short stories illustrating 6 different problems concerning this condition and our relation to it. Applying some of the laws of mind as we know them, we find that Jesus was talking about universal truth and expression. The mustard seed comparison is to show the capacity of the apparently small thought of truth to develop in consciousness until it becomes the abiding place of a higher type of thoughts. Birds in the air. Talks about birds a lot in the biblical text, okay? The birds are symbolic for higher types of thoughts. The leaven is the truth, and the woman is the soul. When a word of truth is apparently hidden in the inner mind, it does not die. Hold on, wait a minute. I lost my part. When the word of the truth is apparently hidden in the inner mind, it does not, I'm sorry about that. It is not idle, but quietly spreads until the whole consciousness is light with spirit. People who have for years had a hidden word of truth at work are quick to respond to a larger exposition of divine law, and we recognize that are ripe for receiving truth. Now, I'm going to fast forward because the description of heaven is like really long in this dictionary. But what I want to point out specifically, because I have it highlighted, is the fact that if you follow me and you watch my content, I always talks about how I think it's John chapter 20, how it says, cast your net to the right side, and how the right side of your brain is your 90% your God self. That's your right hemisphere. The 10% is logic. The 10% of the logical brain that is in a human being in the biblical text, that's actually what Egypt represents. We're going to get there. But I also wanted to point out here, because it's listed under habit, it says the net cast into the sea is the state of mind that seeks truth in many places and gets much that has to be thrown away. So, again, state of consciousness, heaven and earth. God created, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Now we know that heaven is a state of consciousness. But here's what heaven and earth means symbolically in the original text. Heaven and earth is two states of mind, the ideal and its manifestation. According to Revelation chapter 21, verse 1, we are to have new ideals with manifestations in earth to correspond. So now we're talking about the law of correspondence, which is cause and effect when you go into the esoteric or the hermetic principles. That's the principle of correspondence, cause and effect. Every cause has an effect. So when we're talking about heaven and earth, and when it's telling us that we're supposed to manifest new ideas that's supposed to correspond with earth, now we're talking about the plane of correspondence. As above, so below. Heaven and earth, as above, so below. But let's go on. So when we jump down, let me make sure I'm on task, because I got the gift of gab. I did that. Okay. So when we jump down to Genesis, we're still in Genesis chapter 1, verses 14. It says, then God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from night, and let them be for the signs and for the seasons and for the days and the years. That is telling us to look at the months, the years, the constellations, the stars, the universe. It's symbolic for astrology. When it talks about the second coming, the second coming points to the age of Aquarius. I talked about this multiple times, how in this biblical text, it says, when you see the man carrying the pitcher of water, follow him into the house. John the Baptist was the man who was carrying the pitcher of water. John the Baptist in paganism is the water god. And that's just facts. If you know anything about history and the origins of Christianity, you know that in the Dark Ages, the first followers of Christianity, of Yeshua, or Yeshua ben Joseph, were witches. Parts of the Bible are literally pagan mysteries. They had temples instead of churches. They had community. They weren't going to be involved in the doctrines and the laws and all of this brouhaha that came with religion. So when the Catholics came in, they didn't like what was going on. It's that basic historical story that we all know about. You either do what we say do, or we're going to unalive you. And that's precisely what happened. They took out all of those people in the Dark Ages. And those were true followers of what this text is. So with that, they burned a lot of this information in like the year of 325. This information was burned, which is why when it comes to the biblical text, we have this mishmash of pagan mysteries, the Kabbalah, which they say the Kabbalah is associated with the Jewish sector. However, the Kabbalah actually comes from Kemetic science. The Greek mythology that's in the biblical text also is Kemetic science. When you go back in history and you start looking at the earlier dynasties, and when like the whole issue of commerce that was happening along the Mediterranean Sea, and just how they start intermingling just the different ethnicities and stuff like that, and it all became this issue of power and money. And a divide happened. Okay, that's what that is. So they wanted to hide the truth. And the Greek is, as much as the Greek has, and you can look it up, has been very kind of open that all of their greatest philosophers, studied the Kemetic or Egyptian mysteries, they still was like, no, we don't want y'all to know that this information came from them. Okay, so a lot of this stuff has been rewritten. Anyway, I just went off on a tangent. Okay, so let's go back to the creation story. So now we've talked about the heavens and the earth, what they really mean. So we have how they are planes of consciousness, higher and lower. Heaven is the higher because that's the spirit, and earth is the lower. We talked about how when it says look to the signs, it's about the constellations, the stars, the galaxies. This is what we're supposed to look for. But now we're going to talk about Adam and Eve. And the reason why I have such a smug smile on my face about Adam and Eve is because, we've all had our parents to tell us growing up, oh, you have such an active imagination. You have such an active imagination. However, what they want us to believe is that we have an active imagination when their imagination is active too, because they thought that there was this sky daddy that decided to do anesthesia and perform surgery on a man that he made out of clay to create woman. No. Adam does represent the flesh. It represents the evolution of human beings. So when we go into the creation story and we talk about the creation of Adam and Eve, Eve is the spirit. And I'm going to read this to you verbatim. I'm going to read Adam and I'm going to read Eve. Adam has always been the flesh. Eve has always been the spirit. When it comes to the Kundalini and you talk about that fire of that spirit that's coming from the base that's going up, that is Eve. That is feminine energy. That's a part of the Trinity. It was never about this whole, sacred spirit that's outside of ourselves and the sky daddy that was outside of ourselves. It wasn't about that. It was about us internally and our rise to consciousness. So when we talk about the evolution of flesh, which is Adam, we have to look at science. I don't know why we allow ourselves to believe these biblical texts when science has been pointed out so many times, the evolution of man and how we over time evolved from animals. We evolved for animals. So how can we know and how can we have science and we go to these museums and these museums have factual proof that we evolved from mammals and we think we were made out of effing clay by a sky daddy? Everything that we have to be thankful for and grateful for as far as our evolution when it comes to man and woman on earth, it's from the animals. And this is why I keep saying, and I really wish that somebody would pop in my life who was more well versed on speciesism than I am. This is why I said we can't have a conversation about racism until we have a conversation about speciesism. Because the reptilians, the fish, the mammals, like we had to evolve and go through this whole era. And I think we got to like the Triassic era, which that's the reptilian era. We had to go through that before the era of the ape came along and the evolution of our conscious mind, which we developed the whole frontal lobe. We can't, like, that's science. That's clear, flat out science. Period in the story is science. I don't know how we ever got a hold of that. Okay. But let's look at Genesis chapter 2, because that's the creation of man and woman. Genesis chapter 2, verses 2. Right? And it talks about, and what I want to point out here is that it says, by the seventh day, God completed his work, which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work, which he had done. Who witnessed that? Who witnessed it? How did they know it was 7 days? We were not keeping up with calendars. and days and times. We weren't. If you look at the calendar, if you go back through history and you look through the calendar, during the Roman era, people weren't even allowed to know what day it was unless it was a day of importance, and that was only announced to them by the priest. And depending on the politician that they liked during the time in the Roman days, and it was election, they would give them more time, so they would add days to the calendar. So who was there to know that in 7 days, Sky Daddy took a rest for creating man, woman, earth? Sky Daddy was exhausted. So here's another thing that I want to put out, and I'm really not trying to be smug here. I'm just saying the math don't math. Because if the Sky Daddy, it sounds like, Sky Daddy needed to have some rest. That's a very human quality. Someone that created all of the all of the all. Of the all. The fish, the plants, the leaves, the trees, all of it needed rest because they was tired. Sounds very human to me. But who was there? Because also in the biblical text, it is saying over and over and over again, no one has seen God. So who knew it was 7 days? Who knew? But in mysticism, what 7 means, the number 7 in mysticism means divine intervention. That's what it means. Now, we do know that the sun, this is science, we do know that the sun, if the sun goes away today, all life would cease to exist. We would not survive without the sun. We wouldn't. Which is why the Egyptians and all the other tribal communities worshipped the sun, gave reverence to the sun. They venerated the sun. If you look into the whole resurrection story, it's astronomy. And it's about how the sun cycles around the dang on earth. It goes through this whole phase. Goes through the winter solstice. So hell is really cold, not hot. That's a whole different study for a whole different day. But I just want to get you guys to think. You know what I mean? And whether you know, whether you don't know, whether you want to get a better understanding, because I know I've been to church. I grew up in church. I come from a lineage of minister. I'm an ordained minister, and I don't tell people that. I don't tell people that. Because there's such a negative connotation attached to it now because we've been lied to so much. But I come from a lineage, and I know that I was taught this stuff literally. So if I know that I was taught this stuff literally, I know multiple people was taught this stuff literally. David Koresh is a huge example of somebody who took something literally. He unalived a bunch of people by trying to literally access a 7th seal. You know what I mean? So the number 7 in mythicism is divine intervention. It is when you have been touched by the spirits. When you have activated that kundalini, when you have risen into higher consciousness, you have touched the kingdom within, and your thoughts are pure. And we can only get that way if we change the way we think, if we change our mind, if we become pure of mind. Okay, that's how we touch the kingdom. Okay, so I was going to talk about like the body types and the physical changes that happen when it comes to, yes, I was told by a pastor that the Bible should be taken literally. Yes. Yeah, I believe you. I believe you. Because I was taught literally. My family was taught. Let me tell you, and I'm going to get briefly off topic, but let me tell you, not really. So last week I had to fly back home because my grandmother passed away, and I have an adopted cousin that my grandparents took in. Now, again, we were all taught this archaic alliteration of the biblical text. This is what was indoctrinated in us. And to hear this man, my cousin is 33 years old, and to hear this man say that women only belong in the kitchen, in the house having babies at 33 years old, that women have contributed nothing to society. And I dropped facts on this man of what women have done historically through society that was beneficial to the whole entire world, collective. What else stupid that he said? Oh, that if he was ever in help, if he was ever in need of help, he would rather have a man police officer and a man firefighter to come and help him, which was offensive to me because I've gone to fire school. I went to the fire academy. I've been a paramedic for over 10 years. And because I am a woman, a minority woman at that, I had to remain top tier physically and mentally to do that job. So to hear somebody who was taught this stuff literally and referencing the Bible and saying these horrible, archaic, misogynistic things about women, don't tell me people wasn't taught literally. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that, because they were. And I wasn't the only one. Yeah, he's going to be single for a long time. He's going to be single for a very long time. And I feel bad for any woman that he dates because he's going to create wounds on people. He's going to create wounds on people. And this is why it's important. Right now, we are going through a rise in consciousness globally. People think that they call this stuff with spirituality new age, and it's not. This has happened time and time and time and time again, and it's going to keep happening even after you and I and the rest of us are long gone, time and time and time again, until we get it right. Until there's literally heaven on earth. Because right now, we're going backwards. It's going to keep happening. So it's important that people like myself and anybody else who is taking a leadership position to get up and speak out about what's happening in the world and say, hey, no, we can't take this stuff literally anymore because it's damaging us. Our government is based off of this text. We can't afford it no more. Humans can't afford to be teaching and taking this crap literally anymore. The whole book is cosmic psychology. It is telling us how man, woman, and child is the Holy Trinity. It's always been about us. It's always been about our rise in consciousness, our evolution of the flesh, and our involution of the spirit. We're supposed to be going up, and instead, we've got consumed with the physical here on earth. We've disconnected from our God self. We've come up with these stories, which is really only about, I don't know what they were thinking. Because when you read it literally, it's frightening. Why does somebody love me and he's going to hurt me? But I was made in his image. What? You made me human, but you're going to hurt me. And I'm supposed to turn a blind eye for people who do terrible things to me. Okay. I can't. I'm over it. Okay, so let's get back to Adam. I'm sorry. So Adam in Hebrew means red, ruddy, reddish, firm. This is the name of the first man of the human race according to the Bible. Genesis chapter 5, verses 1 through 5. In Joshua chapter 3, verses 16, Adam is referred to as a city. Okay. It says, the first movement of mind in its contact with life and substance. Adam also represents the generic man, or the whole man race epitomized in the individual man idea. Eve is the feminine aspect of generic man. Outwardly manifests, male and female created he, them. If the ego or will, which is man, has adhered to wisdom faithfully and has carried out in its works the planes that are idolized in wisdom, it has created a harmonious consciousness. Adam in the Garden of Eden is symbolic of that consciousness. Now, I was going to get to Eden because that's important. Eden means delight. So we have a garden of delights that was made in the East. I'm going to read you the definition of East, because remember how I said the right hemisphere, your God self is on your right side, right? If you look at your body, north, south, east, west. I don't care if you turn to the right side is still facing east. I don't care if you turn this way, your right side is facing east. I don't care if you turn west, your right side is going to be facing east. I'm going to read to you what east is here in a second. But it says Adam in the Garden of Eden is symbolic of that consciousness. Adam in his original creation was in spiritual illumination. Spirit breathed into him continually the necessary inspiration and knowledge to give him superior understanding. But he began eating or appropriating ideas of two powers, God and not God, or good and evil. The result, so the allegory relates, was that he fell away from spiritual life and all that it involves. Man is spirit, absolute and unconditioned. But man forms that. Oh, sorry, hold up. I be so excited. I be skipping parts and I'm like, wait a minute, get back on track. So man is spirit, absolute and unconditioned. But man forms an Adamic consciousness in which he breathes the breath of life. This, in its perfect expression, is the Son of Man, an expression of the divine idea. I want to see you get to 10K subscribers. Your knowledge is powerful. Speak the truth. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. See, we are continually at work with this Adam. We can breathe into his nostrils the breath of life, inspiring him with the idea of life in all its unlimited fullness. We can lift up this Adam by infusing into him this sublime ideas, and in no other way. That's what Adam is. Let's go to Eve. Let's go to Eve. So here we are. We have, and I'm going to read you what Egypt is, because again, when I say your left side of your brain is the 10%, your logical, your logical, your lower consciousness, that is what Egypt is in the biblical text. It's always been symbolic. It was never actually physically talking about Egypt. Jerusalem was symbolic for your heart. The trees in the biblical text are symbolic for the nerves. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Hold on. Also, here, I found East first. So it says East. In scriptural symbology, East represents within. As used in Matthew chapter 2, verses 1, and the word in the original is plural. The significance, therefore, is that from the regions of interior wisdom come thoughts of reverence and rich gifts of substance and understanding and every spiritual help for the holy life, the Christ child that has begun in its growth in consciousness. What did I tell you about the East? What did I tell you about the right side of your mind? Cast your net to the right side. Yeshua, Jesus, Yeshua ben Joseph, Jesus, whatever y'all want to call that man. He cast his net to the right side and he caught 153 fish. 153 fish reduces down to 9. 9 represents in mysticism the human consciousness. It represents Adam. It represents the flesh. In Hebrew, the word Adam translates numerically to the number 9. I am making this up. Go get a Hebrew Bible. I am making it up. I ain't got no reason to lie to y'all. We've been lied to enough. We have been lied to enough, baby. Here we go. I found Eden. Remember I was talking about how Garden of Eden, and Eden means delight. Eden, Hebrew, sensible, time, pleasure, delight, pleasantness. It says A, The name of a place where we are told God put the first man and woman, Adam and Eve. Genesis chapter 2, verses 8, Isaiah 51:3, Ezekiel 28:13. A place that is prophesied against. That's Amos chapter 1, verses 5. So we're going to go through all that because it keeps going through chapters and chapters and chapters. So it says a pleasant, harmonious, productive state of consciousness, which is the Garden of Eden. So here we have Adam. Here we have the heaven and earth. And this is telling us that the heaven and earth was always symbolic of our higher and lower states of consciousness. Here it tells us that Adam is the flesh. He was the generic man. His whole entire fall in the Garden of Eden, which was delight, which is the state of consciousness, which is the harmonious state of consciousness, which represents duality, which is telling you that that man had balance. In the beginning, when we evolved from animals, we had balance. Before we allowed ourselves to sit solely in logic, becoming completely unbalanced, we start loving money, and we realize, oh, we can manipulate people, and which is why we have the society we have today. We fell. We separated from our God selves, from our harmonious balance in higher consciousness. We fail. We fail. It says, when man is expressing in harmony with divine mind, bringing forth the qualities of being in divine order, he dwells in Eden. He dwells in Eden. Okay. So where was I? Or in a state of bliss in a harmonious body. The garden symbolizes the spiritual body in which man dwells when he brings forth his thoughts after the original divine ideas. This garden is the substance of God. Eden is in parentheses, or a state of perfect relation of ideas to being. The Garden of Eden is the divine consciousness. Having developed a consciousness apart from his divine nature, man must till the ground from whence he was taken. That is, he must come into a realization of God as the source of being and must express ideas in harmony with divine mind. Wisdom and love are joined in God, and a perfect balance is struck in consciousness between knowing and feeling when man spiritualizes his thoughts. This has been about us the whole entire time. Our involution of spirit. I don't get on my platform and make videos and just pop my shit just to pop my shit. Then I don't know what I'm talking about. I told you, if I'm going to talk about something, I'm going to bring you some receipts. And yes, I know that pretty much everything, including history, has been manipulated to an extent. I mean, the beginning of the word manipulated is man. However, when you break this kind of stuff down and you look at the symbolism of it and the mysticism of it, it makes more logical sense versus what we were taught to take literally in churches, in structural religious systems. It makes more sense. And this is what people, especially people who are still feeling like, you know, I went through all of this abuse and suffering. Some people did go through that, being raised in these religious structures. And it says, I went through all these things. I followed the Bible by the T. I did everything that I said I was supposed to do. And I'm still miserable on the inside. And I'm still going through bad stuff on the outside. I done got baptized. I done did all this other stuff. I've done all these things that I was told to do. And then we sit up here and we question or blame God for the things that is happening, or the Most High that's happening in our life. And it's like, no. That's not of the Most High. Not at all. And I'm going to find it in this book because I bookmarked it. But it says that in here too. It's just not. So when people go to these ministers and these pastors, here's Eve. These ministers and these pastors, and they ask them these questions. And then the only thing they can do is answer them with another scripture from the same damn book. Now you have people who are going outside of themselves and going to jumping different religious structures only to find that the same monsters still exist. They're just in different forms. They just teach it a little bit differently. No one brings information. No church talks about science and the evolution of man. And then I don't really get that, even though we look at science, because you can't have one. And esoteric knowledge teaches us you cannot have science without spirituality, and you cannot have spirituality without science. Duality in all things, everywhere, even within. How does nobody look at what we've been taught and say, okay, well, this is science, and they're able to prove that, and all the stuff in the Bible nobody's ever really been able to prove? And then to get up there and still keep teaching it. To keep teaching it. Which is so frustrating. But okay. So here we go, Eve. Eve in Hebrew means elementary. Life, life-giving, living. The first woman and the man called his wife named Eve because she was the mother of all living. Genesis chapter 3, verse 20. Love or feeling in individual consciousness. The I am, which is wisdom, puts feeling into what it thinks. And so Eve is feeling, Eve is spirit, Eve is the fire, becomes the mother of all living. Feeling the spirit. So when I tell you that Eve is spirit, it says right here, feeling is spirit. We all have duality within inside of us. I don't care if you are a man or a woman or whatever you are, we are all them, they. Because we all possess duality. I digress. Feeling the spirit, which quickens. Woman symbolizes the soul region of man and is the mother principle of God in expression. See, new subscriber here needs to find out what book you are reading and where can I find it. So in my link, go when you thank you for subscribing. First of all, everybody who is even paying attention and watching me and sharing everything, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it because I honestly, I did not want to be a teacher, and it's like, it's like you're called. But if you go, when you leave the live and you go to the link, it's at the top. It says the Bible you didn't know you needed. It's going to take you to this book. Okay, it's going to take you to this book. It's called The Metaphysical Bible. The cover, they've changed the cover from when I bought this. I bought this in 2017. They changed the cover, but it's the same book. The author is the same. Okay, so it says, woman symbolize, I had to start that again. Woman symbolizes the soul region of man and is the mother principle of God in expression. Back of the woman, feeling, is the pure life essence of God. Adam and Eve represent the I am identified in life substance. They are primal element forces of being itself. And when it says being, it's like human being. You're very welcome, my love. Eve is very closely identified as elementary life with absolute life, God. Thank you, my love. And thank you for subscribing. The verb OHOH says whole, to being luminous, absolute life, which forms the basis of the name God, is the basis also of Eve. However, due to a slight change in characters and a hardening of the vowels, it no longer represents absolute life, but the struggle of elementary existence. This is the struggle of the soul to regain its perfect state of existence of the absolute God. Thank you, my love, for the stars and subscribing. What did I tell y'all? Didn't I tell y'all that Adam is flesh? Hey, love. Adam is flesh, Eve is the spirit, and together they are one. It has been about our evolution as a human being and our evolution spiritually. Not some sky daddy who performed surgery. That's what it wasn't about. That's just it wasn't what it was about. When I tell you the joy that overcame, the peace in my journey, in my spiritual journey as a whole, the level of peace and the joy that I found within myself when I started going down that rabbit hole, because my spiritual awakening chooses me. The spiritual awakening chooses you. You don't get to choose when you are ready. The spiritual awakening chooses you. Okay? So when I went down this rabbit hole and I started finding this information, I was so overjoyed. And it gave me peace. Because first of all, it confirmed that I was not crazy. Okay? And then it gave me something that made sense. Yes, I love your light. You're definitely called to teach. You are so easy to listen and comprehend. Thank you so much. And that's what I want to do. I don't want to cause more confusion. So if I don't have the answer, I'm going to always tell you I don't have the answer, but I can find the answer for you. And if I can't find the answer for you, I'm going to tell you I can't find the answer for you. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to sit up here and lie. It benefits me none. Giving this information doesn't benefit me none. I care about the collective. As much as I fought the divine spirit within me as a teacher, I didn't want to do this. I spent my 20s helping my community. Being spat on, being hit, being kicked, being abused mentally because of my skin color, because I was a woman, because I chose a career that serves my community. I was broken. I didn't want to help people no more. Spirit was telling me that you need to teach, you need to do this. I said, I don't want to help them. I had a priestess and a Babalawo said, you are supposed to be helping people. I said, I don't want to do it. This is the beginning of my journey. But I care about the generations after us. I care about the truth. I'm so sick and tired of seeing turmoil on this earth that I want different. So if I want different, I have to be the change that I want to see. So I had to come up out of my selfishness and answer the call. I had to answer the call because even though I personally don't have children, other people have children. I have sisters. I have brothers. I have nieces. I have cousins. They have children. I know I probably won't see the change that I want to see in my lifetime, but I want it to be better for them because it's not about me. It's about the global thought form. It's about everybody. So the Most High knew I needed to hear this, so I'm on the right path of my spiritual awakening. Yes, I'm so glad you are here. Welcome, 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 and thank you. I am so, it's so ironic because nothing happens by chance. Nothing. It doesn't. Because I was getting ready I couldn't find this book. I had moved to Texas and I couldn't find this book. And I said, dang, I think this book is in the Midwest. And I really, really need it. Because I'm dropping all this information on these people and they want to know what's going on. And I need to give them references. And so I was going to buy the book. And when I went to buy the book was completely sold out. But lo and behold, my grandmother passed away. And then I had to fly back home. And guess where my book was? With my family. Nothing happens by chance. When you run across certain things, sometimes not everything is a sign. But sometimes it's a sign. Sometimes it's a sign. Okay, so I talked about the E. Oh, I read the E. So hold on, let me get back. I talked about casting the net to the right side. Y'all know, if you follow me, you know I'm about my notes. This is why I don't go live all the time, because I be studying, I be making notes, because I want to make sure that I come correct every single time. I talked about the Garden of Eden. So let's go to the fall of man. Let's go to the fall of man. So in the fall of man, we are going to, and this is where we're going to talk about the infamous snake that everybody keeps calling the devil. I'm going to tell you what sin is symbolic for, and what the snake is symbolic for. Okay? Because the snakes don't talk. The snakes don't talk. So we're going to go to Genesis chapter 3, verses 1. Right? And now I'm tired. I wrote the pages down, and I ain't even looking at the pages, so I'm sitting here making y'all watch me flip. I wrote the pages down. So, we're talking about the serpent. So the serpent of the Garden of Eden is our sense consciousness. So if you ever watch one of my videos, I told you how the 4 horsemen in the book of Revelation represents emotions, intelligence, I believe it's physicality, and then spirit, right? When we're talking about the fall, even the fall of Lucifer is symbolic. We have a star, right? Lucifer in the biblical text is a star. It's a star who fell. So that is him falling from grace, him falling from his higher self into what we have as the negative aspect, the lower consciousness, our 5 senses, what makes us humans. This is our sense consciousness. Let me page 584. Here we go. Serpent. The serpent of the Garden of Eden is sense consciousness. It may also be called desire and sensation, or the activity of life in an external expression apart from the source of life. When the life is lifted to the realization that it is spirit, it becomes healing and illustrated by Moses lifting up the serpent in the wilderness. Those who have been bitten by the fiery serpents, and in parentheses it says lustful expressions of life, were healed when they looked upon the serpent that was lifted up by Moses at the command of God. They looked up or perceived the truth about divine life, and their minds and their bodies were cleansed. Bitterness always has back of it a bite. Wait a minute. Bitterness always has back of it a bites for someone. When man rebels against life's conditions and curses God, he sets up fiery forces in his thoughts that react on his body like poison. So, I'm going to pause here and I'm going to keep going. If you watched my other live, I was talking about the book of Revelations, and I was talking about the 7 seals. And I said that even in this live that I was going to revisit that, because the book of Revelations is not this apocalyptic story about the end of time. And at no point is the word apocalypse mentioned in the actual biblical text. It's just not. However, what the book of Revelation is about us and our disruption of our endocrine system. That's what it's about. It's symbolic. Human body disruption of the endocrine system. The 7 churches, again, here we go with this number 7. And I don't know if anybody else recognizes the number 7 that's mentioned over and over again in the biblical text. Divine intervention, fullness. Okay. The 7 churches are the 7 chakras. The crown that was on Yeshua's head when he rode in on the white horse, the crown chakra, illumined, enlightenment. Now, when I talked about, I talked about abandonment issues. I did a live on that too. And I tell people all the time, I said, when you have abandonment issues, when you are, with any issue, when you are rooted in fear, which as a society, we are all fears all around us. We have fear. If you watch the news, I guarantee you have fear being pumped into you, right? So what it does is it releases stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, 2 stress hormones that disrupt the endocrine system. It constantly has you in fight or flight mode. So guess what? Now you have issues with sleeping. You have insomnia. You have gastrointestinal disease. You have issues with your pancreas. You spiking your insulin, whether you're eating a whole bunch of crap, you're spiking your insulin, or whether your pancreas decide to say, we're done. we're done. I'm not going to produce insulin anymore, right? It disrupts your thyroid. Your thyroids are also a part of your endocrine system. If you're a man, it disrupts if you're a man and a woman, actually, it disrupts your reproductive system. Whether you have low testosterone, or if you have issues with polycystic disorder, you have all these different things, all these emotions, because we're constantly rooted in fear. And I don't care if you're even watching the news. Shit, if you are living paycheck to paycheck like most of us are, fear that you're going to lose your car, fear that you're going to have a roof over your head, fear that you're not going to be able to put food in your belly or put food in your kid's belly, fear. That's all it is. It's a disruption of your endocrine system. So now when we look at the serpent and we realize that the serpent is symbolic for sense consciousness, and it's telling you that bitterness always has back of it a bite for someone. When man rebels against life's conditions and curses God, we always blame the Most High, because we've been taught and conditioned that there is something outside of us that's controlling our lives. Whether it is God, whether it is the devil, whether it is demons, whether it is angels, it's always everybody else but us. You don't need nobody to do no roadblock, nothing. You don't need to pay a spiritualist for unblocking some roads. Unblock it yourself. It's telling us, it's saying that when we curse God, he sets up fiery emotion. When you curse yourself, remember, we are replications of the Most High. We're supposed to become whole. That 10% Egypt, that carnal, that logical, that lower consciousness, we're supposed to, that's what the tithing comes from, that 10%. It was always symbolic. It wasn't about giving me your money. You were supposed to take that 10% of your carnal mind and merge it with that 90% of your God self to become 100% whole. WHOLE. Whole, which means entire, which means complete, not holy. HOLY, because holy means sacred. When you do that, when you become like a child, pure of thoughts, but in the biblical text, in the way we were taught in literation, that it means that you need to preserve yourself for marriage, to be untouched, to be clean for a man. And this is not to, I'm not getting on no whole man versus woman. I'm not doing that. That's not what this is. I'm just saying it birthed the purity culture. But in reality, it was purity of thought, purity of mind, being cleansed here in your pineal gland. So you can go ahead and be 100% whole, entire, complete. It says, this is the condition illustrated in the allegory of Numbers chapter 21, verses 5 through 9. God does not directly send serpents upon man. Didn't I tell y'all that the Most High don't do stuff to us? God does not directly send serpents upon man, but man's rebellious thoughts set up cross currents in his consciousness, and the burning and the biting seem a divine visitation. The original Hebrew does not imply that these were real serpents, but state that they were the burning ones. That's weird. The serpent is a form of elemental life. The Oriental symbol of eternal life is the serpent with tail in mouth. Then y'all can jump in the comment section or say one or do an X or whatever the case may be. But have you all seen that symbol where you see the serpent and you see that it is eating itself? It literally has its tail in its mouth. That's what it's talking about. When this element form is lifted up or spiritualized, it adds glory and radiance to the whole man. The brazen serpent or brazen serpent that Moses caused to be put up where all could see it, and so be healed, represents this elevation of the sense man to a higher consciousness. Moses prayed for the people, and they confessed their sins and repented. I'm going to go over sins because it's not what we think it is. There was a complete change of thoughts, and especially a concentration on the one life represented by the bronze serpent, to which all must look to be healed. When we turn our attention within and concentrate all our thoughts of life on divine life and manifest in Christ. Remember I said Christ is the consciousness. A harmonizing and uplifting process sets in throughout an organism. The life force is no longer dissipated in sensation, but it is conserved and consecrated at the various nerve centers. Through the action of the mind in prayer, faith, and meditation, the life forces is transmuted to higher forms of energy, and the whole man is lifted. This is the way in which the body is spiritualized, and through this method, man will finally make an immortal body. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness of sense in parentheses, even so must the Son of Man, personal consciousness in parentheses, be lifted up. Taking up serpents represents lifting up sense consciousness without being hurt by its reaction. And that goes into the principle of rhythm, which is esoteric knowledge. It's talking about the pendulum swing, which means that regardless, we are supposed to be in such a harmonized state within, because life is always going to keep lifing. Life is always going to be good, filled with good problems and bad problems. Okay? So we're supposed to be so harmonized within spirit, within ourselves, that when life gets to lifing and the pendulum starts swinging either way, we are not supposed to have this over dramatized reaction with our emotions, because we all do it. I used to be an extremely emotional person. If it was bad, I was going 10. If it was good, I maybe go a 5, because I was so used and accustomed to life really kicking my butt. Nothing has ever been given to me. I had to work for everything, ever. Paid for school out of pocket, bought my own first car. I did everything myself. So life was always whipping on me. I lost my parents at a young age. Life was whipping on me. So regardless of what life throws at you, whether it be good, whether it be bad, we are supposed to be so harmonized within ourselves that it does not take us over. We are not overthrown by the emotions that strum up. That's what that's about. That is the principle of rhythm in esoteric knowledge. Okay. So it says, laying hands on the sick represents pouring out healing power of spirit. Y'all remember, we have been told so many times, or taught so many times, that Yeshua ben Joseph put his hands on people and he was healing the sick. When in reality, this was symbolism from pouring out healing power of spirit. Now, this is not to say, because let me say this, because I do feel like if Jesus really did exist, at best, his name was Yeshua ben Joseph, and he was a real, regular man who connected to his Christ consciousness. Some people just love slave teaching. What is that? Some people do love slave teaching. So he connected to Christ consciousness. He found his God self. And so when they were talking about this person in the story, and they saying that he was against religion, he left religion. When they was talking about his baptism, it really wasn't being immersed in water and getting his hair wet. It wasn't about that. It was talking about baptism of the spirits, where you go through all the elements and then you reach that fire of the spirit, to that ultimate enlightenment. That's what that was talking about. He was trying to help people. He was trying to do good things. He was considered a blasphemer. They told him he was a blasphemous. They accused him of being possessed with demons. They accused him of working with Beelzebub, which is a demon. The church unalived this man. Yeshua ben Joseph was an activist. He was an activist. He was trying to free the people. He said, no, this is not cool. These laws, these doctrines, that's not cool. He was even against some of the stuff that the Kabbalists was doing. People who were practicing that esoteric knowledge, because they were saying, again, and I've been saying this lately in my videos, we're not supposed to appropriate spirit for personal gain. You are supposed to align with spirit, and things will manifest for you on its own. And so it wasn't that what the Kabbalists was doing as far as their practices, it wasn't that they were doing it. It was the fact that they were utilizing that to appropriate spirit. And the reason why it didn't work, and when it did work, it was negative, was because they were trying to appropriate spirit for personal gain. That's what it was about. That's what it was about. It was that if this man did exist, he was a regular person that they unalived, just like they unalived every single activist that tries to help the people. I had to come to terms with that. I said, wait a minute. I'm trying to help the people too. Wait a minute. Y'all coming to get me? But then I just, purity of thoughts and whatever the case may be. This is why all the activists didn't fear death. Number one, they had a full understanding that this is just that's just transformation from the physical vessel. We're going to keep rising. We're going to keep coming. There's going to be more people, even after me. There's going to be more people that's going to come up to help raise the global thought form, because it's beneficial for the collective. It's going to keep happening. So tear us down all you want to, but that's what that was. And then this is why I made my other video when I said we're all Yeshua. And I fully get an understanding of this the more I connect to my Christ consciousness. And I said, wait a minute. And I started tearing up at the thought of what they put this man through for trying to liberate the people. I was like, dang, they're just telling us historically, we're going to keep doing it. We're going to get rid of them. Go ahead, everybody stop. So we need another Malcolm X. We need another MLK. And they tell us, keep doing it. We're going to take them. We're going to take them. You're not going to go against me. We're going to take them. Okay, so let me tell y'all about Jesus. I'm gonna read about Egypt and how it is thank you for the subscription stars. Thank you for subscribing. So I'm gonna read to you about Egypt and how it is logic. And I had to really get out my feelings about this. And the reason why I had to get out my feelings about this, because even in the original biblical text that we all grew up with, and even in this translation of it, it made me sad, because when it comes to Egypt, when it comes to Ethiopians, when it comes to anything that references being dark, it's considered evil, wicked, lower consciousness, and it really put me in my feelings. It did. I'm not gonna lie. It put me in my feelings. Because I'm just like, why? Egypt wasn't even called Egypt in the early dynasties, in the beginning dynasties. It was ancient Kemet. And there were, because of all the commerce that was happening across the Mediterranean Sea, there were intermingling of different ethnicities. And so not everybody was dark. But why was it specifically when it comes to darkness, it's always represented this way? The regular version, the translated version. And it put me in a space. But I do understand the universal law of one. And I do understand that everything is connected and God is within everything. So then I just kind of had to let it go and was like, whatever. It is what it is. But it put me in a space because I was like, damn, even the translation representing us as dark and all these other shenanigans. Oh no, I wanted to read y'all about sin. Hold on first. Because sin is also not what we think it is. Hold on. That's what I wanted to read to y'all. What's about sin? I wrote it down and I don't remember where I put the page. I'm silly. I don't know if y'all noticed this, but I'm really silly in real life. I used to do stand up, so I'm really silly. I like to have fun. Okay, so sin. Sin in Hebrew means clay, muddy, marshy, hateful passion, bloody disposition, rage, combat. That's what sin means, right? So it says a wilderness between Elam and Sinai, which the Israelites entered after they passed through the Red Sea out of Egypt and were on their way to Canaan. This is in Exodus 16:1. I recently saw a video on the ancient alien serpent bloodline. Really? Oh, let me know what that is. Let me know what video where you found it, because I would love to watch it. Okay, so Egyptian is a city. This is in Ezekiel 30:15. I don't know why they put that in there. But sin is missing the mark, falling short. Sin is missing the mark, falling short of the divine law. The divine law is the law of God, the law of being. It is the underlying principle of every man's being and said of the universe. Sin is a departure from the law of our being. The command of God to man is, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. Just wait. We're going to clear that up. And subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heaven and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. The creatures of the land and sea represent states of mind. It wasn't telling us to have dominion over the different species because we're superior. The creatures of the land and the sea represents our state of mind. And they are all contained in the consciousness of every man. Any failure on our part to exercise this dominion is falling short or a sin. The eternal sin or unpardonable sin referred to by Jesus in Mark chapter 3 verses 28 through 30 is the belief that God is the creator of disease or inharmony of any nature. This belief is called an eternal sin because that which is eternal is abiding. So as long as man abides in the conviction that God causes him to suffer, he closes his mind against the inflow of God's gifts of health, peace, and harmony. Man's sins are forgiven when he ceases to sin and opens his mind to the fact that he is higher only to the God. That's what sin is. Sin is anytime you do anything or think anything that causes you disharmony internally. I love it here. Because the peace, once you get it, the peace. Once you get an understanding, the peace. The peace. The peace. Once you get an understanding, the peace. I wasn't calling you. Are you trying to make a guest star appearance? Come on. Quick. Here's Nemo. No, we're black. So, no. So let's go to Genesis chapter 2. So the sin. So let's put the story together. It's on YouTube. V movies, Ancient Origins, The Alien Bloodline. Okay, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it today. I love it. I know he always makes a guest star appearance. When I start getting crazy, he be like, "Hey, you calling me?" No. Okay, that's it. That's it. That's enough of that. Okay. So don't no. So let's put the story together again, right? I'm sorry I'm shaking because I keep bumping the table. So we have the heavens and earth that represents higher and lower consciousness. It's telling us to always look as human beings because we're flesh. We're Adam, we are Eve. Consciousness, spirit. That if we have any questions, really, just look to the stars, look to the constellations, look to... And the crazy thing about the constellations, because in the actual King James Version, when it talks about Mazareth, and it says, can you not call Mazareth within its season? Mazareth literally means constellation. So here we are, again, in the biblical text that we were taught to take literally, but none of us has taken the opportunity to really look into what some of these words means and look up the etymology of these words. Mazareth literally means constellation. So all throughout the text is telling you, look through the stars, look to the constellations. May they be for the signs. In the great astrological year, there are 12 signs. As he agreed when we buried my mom. Oh, this is my regular stuff. Okay. So when I forgot what was that, threw me off. So when we put the story together, I'm just gonna go there. When we put the story together, it's always been telling us about us, right? And I'm gonna also read, and I hope it's in here because we're getting ready to talk about. It is in here. We're getting ready to talk about Genesis chapter 2 verses 9. I forgot my whole thoughts, so I'm just gonna keep going. We're going to talk about Genesis chapter 2 verses 9. This is the tree of good and evil. That's what I was talking about. When we put the story together and it's talking to us and it's telling us that, hey, listen, we had, the great astrological year. So the number 12 in mysticism represents completion. There are 12 astrological signs. In the great year, there was 12 seasons that were reduced down to 4. I don't know if anybody knows that. But there was 12 seasons that were reduced down to 4. We're going to get into astrology on a different day. Because now that I'm thinking about it, I want to put all this together. I need the whiteboard. I need the things. That's a lot. So let's just go back to the story of creation. Again, it's talking about us. It's telling us to look to the stars. It's telling us to go within. It's telling us to access that wisdom and that knowledge. It's telling us to be harmonious within us. It is telling us that sins are anytime we are thinking that God is doing something bad to us, or our God selves are doing anything bad to us. It's telling us that we need to be harmonious within. It's telling us that we are duality with Adam and Eve. Okay? The serpent was never a real talking snake. It even tells us that the Garden of Eden was the light. We were already in a harmonious state. So as we evolved as human beings, we complicated everything. You were saying something about the signs. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that in a different life, because that's a lot when we go into astrology. That's a lot. We complicated things as we evolved. We just did. Don't know why. Well, money. The love of money. But we were already harmonious. And when it talks about the Adam and Eve being naked, and it's saying like, God said, who told you were naked? It's like God saying, who told you that something was wrong with you? In the first place, I made you perfect. You had no worries. You had everything that you need. Who told you something was wrong? Who? Where did you get that from? Why are you being logical, taking everything literally? So what, you're naked? So what, you're different? So what? I made you in likeliness of me. You are a reflection of me, and I want you to come down here and I want you to enjoy Because the reason why we have everything in life is because of the sun. We were supposed to come down here. We could only experience Earth if we came in physical form. We are light beings. And that's going to be a whole nother life. We are light beings. The biblical texts tell us that we are beings of light. Yeshua ben Joseph said he's light. God also said in the biblical text, the original, he is light. So if we are a reflection of him, he made us in his image, its image, because God has no gender, its image. We are also light beings. We have a whole language that people call talking in tongues. It's really something else. When you start rattling around that energy up there. Who told us that something was wrong with us, that there was anything other than perfection going on? Who told us? It's talking about logic. It's talking about being too consumed in the mundane things of the physical. Because we could have had anything that we wanted. We could still have anything we want. We could still have heaven on earth. If we start working together, if we stop the foolishness, if we stop, however, we are lost. So let's talk about the tree and what the tree represents, right? Trees. Trees represent nerves. And nerves are expressions of thoughts. Thank you for teaching. This is life-changing. You're very welcome. And thank you for subscribing. I'm telling you, in the subscription classes, I'm going to bring that heat. I'm going to bring that heat. I'm bringing science. I'm bringing all the things. Okay, I'm bringing all the things. And what's going to happen is that the subscribers have to see it first, and then eventually I'll put it out on YouTube. But the subscribers get the exclusive classes because I have to do something from them, because I appreciate y'all for even believing in me. So thank you for being here. Always. Gratitude always for being here. So trees represent nerves, and nerves are expressions of thoughts, of unity. They connect thought centers. And I'm going to skip over Ezekiel because that's talking about something else. But it says the tree in Genesis chapter 2 verses 9 signifies the connecting link between earth and heaven. Jacob's ladder, also in the book of Genesis, between earth and heaven. You're very welcome. You're very, very welcome. And thank you for subscribing as well. Let's see. Signifies the connecting link between earth and heaven, between body and mind, the formless and the formed. Every tree that is pleasant to the sight pertains to the perceptive faculty of mind. It is always pleasant to perceive truth. The substance of spiritual thought is the food that is good. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden represents the absolute principle established in man consciousness by the divine mind. The roots of the tree of life are centered in the solar plexus region. Didn't I tell y'all that the seven seals, the seven churches in the book of Revelations are the seven chakras? The roots of the tree of life are centered in the solar plexus region, and they are symbolized in the physical organism by the nerves. The solar plexus, when it comes to that energy center, that chakra, it's located around the stomach. It's centralization. You said this just blew your mind. I bet it blew my mind when I first read it. I said, what? Now, I remind you, this came from the Unity School of Christianity. I ain't make it up. I ain't do none of that. I'm not just, talking about some stuff. The energy is the seven seals, the 7 chakras. That solar plexus is literally the center. It represents centralization. As a PK, it's freeing. Let me tell you. I'm glad that you're being freed. That is what I'm here for. I promise you that's what I'm here for. That is like Moses told the Pharaoh, let my people go. Let my people go, Pharaoh. And I'm going to read y'all what Pharaoh means too. Now that I said that. Because it's not what we thought it was. Okay, so. The generative center in the loins of man is the point at which the physical man contacts life. But when the consciousness has been redeemed and man has placed himself in the garden through I am, which is God, he contacts the tree of life at the solar plexus region or heart center, and from this center exercises authority and dominion over the whole current of life in the organism. See, that is interesting because the belly button is in that area and the placenta looks like the tree of life. Yes, it does. It does. And I am actually going to esoterically or comedically break down in one of the classes, the placenta and its reference to the tree of life and how it connects to the nerves and the solar plexus. I'm going to make it all make sense. We're going to go in a whole circle. We're going to go in a whole circle. Okay, it says, the tree of knowledge of good and evil represents the discerning capacity of mind. Excuse me. Man first perceives truth, then he must discern the relation of ideas before perfect activity is set up within him. God told Adam to avoid the tree whose fruit was in knowledge of good and evil, for in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. It is evident that this tree is closely related to individual free will, which is in direct touch with the serpent or selfhood. So it's not that you have this knowledge and you're going to die because we know these things. It's saying that if you eat this knowledge and you do things of your own free will and your logical mind, you're going to die. You are going to perish. You are going to be lost for eons if you separate yourself and you just completely detach from me and what my teachings and what I have for you. Okay? It says, in that state of consciousness or day, in the individual shall surely die. The branch that separates itself from the trees withers away and dies. So a belief by the ego that its life, substance, and intelligence are self-derived cuts off the source of supply, and the ego begins to revolve in the mental vortex whose dominant tones are good and evil, birth, death, and duality. It is through the affections, the feminine in us, that we partake in both good and evil. The soul or woman was given to man by God. And in the avenue through which the inspirations of spirit come, when the I am assumes mastery over the soul, it brings forth only good. Again, this is talking about self-mastery, not having a woman subservient underneath you. This is about self-mastery. We were always created to be, or we came into evolution to help each other. This is why when you go back into the earlier dynasties, when they had kings and kingdoms and stuff like that, the kings would leave to go take care of their business, and they would leave their wives, which are the queens, to rule because they were partners. It was always partnership. Okay? So it says, if man could lay hold of the tree of life while thinking both good and evil to be real, he would be going on living in the negative part of his being and would be destructed upon himself. Man lost consciousness of his divine nature and spirit, and so must begin again to lay hold of the potential ideas and substance, and must till the ground from whence he was taken. So it says, if you're going to, if you're going to separate from spirit, this is what you're going to do. You're not going to try to get back to yourself. You're going to be there until you are no longer physically in this realm. It says the spiritual life is protected from the coarser consciousness by the flame of the sword, which turned every way, or the word of God and sacred wisdom. Man can regain entrance into Eden only by being born anew of spirit. Remember I said you have to be like a child? Even the biblical text says you have to be like a child to enter back into the kingdom, to enter back into the harmonious, delightful garden. You have to be born anew. Not that you go get baptized and you're born again, because you ain't doing nothing but getting your hair wet. That's if they don't give you a cap. The tree of life, bearing 12 manner of fruit, yielding its fruit every month. That is Revelations chapter 22, verse 2. It explains as follows. The tree of life is the inherent life of the organism. It is symbolized in the physical by the nerves and the spinal column. The spinal column represents the tree. The nerves, which carry living water, are the branches and are the leaves of the tree. Every month, a transmutation of living waters take place under divine order. Thus are the 12 manner of fruit produced by the tree of life. In the midst of the garden, the spiritualized body, the latter text reverts to Genesis chapter 2, verses 9. Man is kept from partaking of this precious, healing, life-giving fruit only by thoughts of sensuality. When this phase of sense consciousness is taken up in truth and eliminated, and the idea of purity is built in, man's body begins to express its original holiness and perfection. And holiness is spelled with the H when they say this, so this is meaning your sacredness. We eat of the fruits of the tree of life when we appropriate ideas of divine life, ceasing to dwell on life as something that comes and goes or something that is governed by birth and death. Yeah. So, to reiterate again, man and woman is one. We're here to multiply. We evolved as animals. We have to thank the reptiles, the amphibians, the birds, all the different species that came before us. Because it's because of the development of the different species that came before us that we have certain structures within, like our mouth, like our jaws and our teeth and stuff like that. So yeah, we have to address speciesism because we are evolved animals. If we never developed a frontal lobe, we would not have consciousness. So oneness, harmony within ourselves. We complicated life with logic. We complicated life with the love of money. We start hurting each other. We start doing terrible things to each other. We start saying that you're inferior to me because of this, that, and the other. Thank you for being a subscriber. Facts. We did. We just did. And all of this is really just telling us about ourselves. Because then if we talk about the temple and the tabernacle, the temple was always us, our body, our physical bodies. Actually, and now that I'm speaking about that, I want to tell y'all what church means. Because it was never about a physical building. And when you look back in the day during the Dark Ages, like I said, the earliest followers of Jesus were witches and they did not have churches, they had temples. However, when the Roman Catholics came through, or when the Romans came through with their crusades and they brought all their shenanigans, they created churches and they made them large. And they coincidentally, they put the church in the same place as the court, which is interesting. And yeah. So when they built that church to establish dominance, is what it was. Because if you look historically, anybody who did not subscribe to Christianity in the beginning, they were unaliving all those people. That's what happened. They were unaliving all those people, and then they built these churches, and they came up with these doctrines and these laws. And again, that is what the 6 glasses of water that Yeshua or Jesus turned from water into wine. Again, we have to look at the symbolism of it, because the 6 glasses, or the 6 cups is in here. There's a symbolism for the cup itself, but the water is the truth. And then when it converted over to wine, that was the truth of God being covered up by doctrines, laws, and religion. Okay. The number 6 in mysticism represents doctrines, laws, and religion. That's what that means. Again, Jesus was kicked out of church. He was called a blasphemer, and he was accused of being possessed by demons. And then they didn't say, and when they unalived him, they said, we're not doing this because you did all these good things. Thank you for doing all these good things, but we're going to unalive you because you said that you were God. And he said, no, I didn't say that I was God. I said I am the Son of God, and God is within me and you and all that. He said, didn't I say too? Is it not written in your law that I said you two are gods? It's in the text, and I really don't get how it was just read the way that it was read, to be quite honest. Here we go. So here we go. I accidentally ran into cup because I was going to read y'all about Egypt, and I'll do that next. But when I was just talking to you about the story about Jesus and the 6 cups of water that was turned into wine, it says cup. In John 18, chapter 18, verses 11, the cup which the Father hath given me is the consciousness of eternal life. This must be attained by an utter crossing out or crucifixion of the personal self, both on its objective and subjective planes of violation. Hence, they led him away. In John chapter 18, verses 12. That other process of the divine law might be carried out. Now that's a lot longer than that, and I'll go into that on a different topic. But I wanted to read to you because I keep talking about that 90% of your right mind, that 10% of your logic mind, and so it's imperative for you to get a full understanding of what that means. I have to read to you about Egypt. So Egypt is it's a Greek word. I don't know if anybody knew that or how many people knew that. Egypt is a Greek word. And in Greek, it means Coptic land. From Hebrew, the name is Mizoram, which means shut in, resistant, misery, tribulation, distress. You see why I felt the way that I felt when I found out what Egypt really was representing? I said, why? Why do we have to do that? So it's a country in the northeast of Africa where the Israelites were held in bondage for many years. That's Genesis chapter 12, verses 10, verses 37, chapter 37, verses 28, Genesis chapter 42, verses 1, and in Exodus chapter 14. It says, Jesus was taken into Egypt when a babe to save him from Herod. Matthew chapter 2, verse 13. So it says, the realm of substance and life in the depths of the body consciousness. To the unregenerate soul is the land of darkness and mystery, yet it is essential to the perpetuation of the body. Egypt signifies the darkness of ignorance, obscurity. It has a special significance in the body consciousness, and we often think of it as referring to the subjective or subconscious mind. We also refer to Egypt as the flesh consciousness, sense consciousness, or material consciousness. So when I tell you that 10% of your left carnal brain is your logic self, that is what Egypt was in the biblical text. It was symbolic for the human sense consciousness. material consciousness, and that 90%, and I don't know how many of y'all know this or recognize this in the Bible, in the original King James Version. I can't even say original anything because nothing's original. However, in the King James Version, it references to the right side all the time. I don't care what it's either the right side of the boat, or if you go enter the chamber is located in the middle. It's going to be the doors on the right side. Everything is the right side. So that's why I tell you, the right hemisphere is our creativity, right? The logical side of our brain was our left side. That is logic, mathematics, science. So if you notice, people who, and I know everybody knows this, people who are creative or artistic in any form are intuitively tapped. They are right brain people. They're right brain people. So again, this is not something that I just made up. This is something that I read. And Egypt, there's a lot of, it says, okay, I'll just read this little bit part because this Egypt description is literally 2 pages, and no. So to further go into what Egypt means, it says the hidden realm within our organism is in an Egyptian or obscure state to most of us. Yet it is a great kingdom. So it's not that logic is useless. It's not that logic is bad, because that's what a proverb is. That's the whole point of the proverb, right? The proverb is we're supposed to come to a common ground of truth based on common sense. The Bible talks about the usefulness of a proverb. So when we're using common sense, that's our logic. That's that 10% of our left brain. So it's not saying that it's not great, that it's not good. We're just not supposed to 100% dwell there. Just like you're not supposed to 100% dwell on the right side. It's about balance and duality. The 10% needs to join the 90% so you can be 100% whole. HOWHOLE. Full, complete, right? Everything is duality. It's always been duality. It's always been yin and yang. Even the story of Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel is in the book of, I want to accept people, but I don't know how to get rid of them and when they be on some mess. So I'm not going to accept people. But that's the whole story of Cain and Abel. Because Cain and Abel, the thing with Cain and Abel is, again, this is representation of, what you doing to my clothes? Hey, what you doing to my clothes? Are you making a bed out of my clothes? Stop. Don't do that, please. Okay, sorry about that. So the story of Cain and Abel, which is very, very, very similar to the Egyptian mythology, because again, that is also mythology. Okay, there were no people in Egypt that had bodies of man and heads of birds and dogs and cats. It's not. That's also mythology. And it's been so tampered with. The truth has been so tampered with. Because the reason why the Egyptian Pharaoh, and the Egyptians didn't even call these people like how we have Basset and Ma'at and Thoth and all them. The Egyptians didn't even refer to them as gods. Because they also knew in esoteric knowledge that there's only one. Right? So they didn't have heads of animals. They didn't. What it was is they put the heads of animals on specific human bodies because they represented that animal represented that particular element. For example, the falcon, right? The falcon is known, and this is real, this is nature, the falcon is known for its sight. The falcon is the only thing out of all the mammals, out of all the beings of everything that can directly look at the sun. So when they put the falcon head on the human body, and I forget which deity that associated with off the top of my head, but when they put that falcon head on that Egyptian body, on that human body, that just represents that person had impeccable sight. Whether they could see in this realm, the next realm, it represented impeccable sight. Not that people over in Egypt were demonic and worshiping rocks and all these gods. They didn't even call them gods. There was not animals' heads on human bodies. Thank you for subscribing. That's not what that was. Okay. So when we go to the story of Cain and Abel, it's very similar to Set. Okay. It's what is it? Set, and I forgot to bring my computer up here. But Set and his brother, the one that they took out the eye of Horus. It's very familiar. And those two also represent state of consciousness. So when we look at Cain and Abel, right? Let's see. I wrote the notes down. So who was the one that got killed? I have so many thoughts. I have so much knowledge up there. And I'm like, okay, well, who, what? This is so amazing. Thank you. I'm glad that you are enjoying it, honestly. Was it Cain to kill Abel? Because I have pages and pages and pages of notes. And I ain't trying to go through all of that. But, hold on, let me look. So it came about in the course of time that Cain brought an offering to the Lord of fruit on the ground. So it was Abel that killed Cain. So Abel, on his part, also brought the firstling of his flock. Okay, I collected my thoughts. So when it comes to Cain and Abel, Cain brought fruits, right? Cain represents the spiritual completeness, that harmony, that balance that was within himself. When Abel came in, Abel brought the first of his flock. Flock represents thoughts. Flock, again, I talked about birds earlier, how birds represent thoughts, and I read that to y'all. Also, the floods. Floods is thoughts, even though they associate with water with different things. We'll get into that to a different day. So Abel brought his logic. He brought his thoughts. He was 100% dwelling in that 10% of his left side of his brain, his thought, his logic. And so because in the story of the Christian mythology, the way it's read, Abel was jealous of Cain. He was jealous because he felt like God favored him. But the reason why there was any favor at all is because Cain came in whole. He came in humbled. He came in harmonized. He came in balanced. And because Abel was jealous of that relationship, he killed Cain. And that's the same story when we see in Egyptology with Set. He was jealous. It represents our higher, lower consciousness. Again, as above, so below, as in heaven is on earth. It's the law of correspondence, cause and effects. So when in why it's so important, and I know with Christianity and structural religion, it tells you not to read all these different stories because they tell you that it's demonic. It's falsities. They worship false gods. And it's like, no, it's all mythology. It's us in our evolution creating these like crazy plays and stories and dramatizations because we're recognizing our consciousness as we evolve as human beings and as we involve spiritually. That's what it is. And so it's important to go and look at Egyptian mythology, to look at African mythology, to look at Christian mythology, to look at Greek mythology. It's important to read all of it because there are similarities. And all points to cosmic psychology. It does. But it takes some investigative work, but you can find the answers. But what do you do when you're faced with people who don't want you to find answers? And when you've been indoctrinated for generations before you that this is evil, that this is demonic, that it is this, that is that. It's bad. When it comes to generational curse breaking, and I say this time and time again, this is what the generational curse breaking is. It is breaking away from all the lies that we have been told about our existence and our evolution as animals and our involution as spirits. We are not supposed to keep separation of man and woman. We are supposed to be one. We need each other. We need each other. Okay, this is what this is about. You have to do the research. You have to look at the etymology. And yes, if you do translations from different cultural backgrounds, yes, is there some difference? Of course, it's different languages. But the meat and the potatoes of the core of it is the same. There is not a word that translates, that one single word in an entire statement or entire story that completely changes the trajectory of that story. The meat and the potatoes are always the same. So, when it comes to Cain and Abel, that's what that represents. When it comes to Jacob's ladder, right? Because Jacob is also in the book of Genesis, right? Now, if you haven't been in any of my previous lives, I talked about the story of Greek mythology, right? There's a Greek titaness goddess named Mesmerem. Pretty sure I just butchered that. She is the goddess of memory. She gave birth to 9 muses. Now look at that number 9. She gave birth to 9 muses. And these 9 muses represented different arts: poetry, comedy, music. And they were all daughters. Muses, translated from Greek, means memory. So now we have the goddess of memory who gave birth to 9 memories. Okay? Didn't I tell you 9 represents flesh, 9 represents human consciousness? But the gag is that her father is Uranus and her mother is Gaia. Uranus is God or heaven in Greek mythology, and Gaia is earth. So here you have heaven and earth gave birth to memory. So that is the ladder that is within Jacob's ladder. It is the memory between heaven and earth. You have to look at all of it. You have to put it all on the table to make it make sense. Earlier, I gave you the definition of heaven and earth. It is the state of two consciousness. I gave you the principle, right? The Hermetic principle. As above, so below. You have to make it make sense, because if you look at it, the answer is right there. The answer is right there. It's right there. And when we go to Jacob's ladder in the book of Genesis, Jacob said that he saw God and he named it Peniel. So what's a part of your endocrine system? Remember I said in the book of Revelations that the endocrine system, the book of Revelations is about you and the disruption of your endocrine system. The pineal gland is a part of your endocrine system, just like your thyroids, just like your pancreas, your kidneys. All of that is a part of the endocrine system, right? So, Jacob experienced enlightenment. The connections are real. It's all connected. This is so feeling. Yes, it is. It's literally all connected. It's all connected. I wouldn't make anything up. So y'all can go and research every single bit of everything that I gave to y'all, and I guarantee you will find it and see for yourself. So when it comes to Jacob's ladder, remember how they say that Jacob's ladder was a winding stairwell that represent. It was very, and the reason why they say that it was very similar to the human's DNA is because the double helix, the way that it wraps around, that stairwell looks like the human DNA. So Jacob sought enlightenment, that fire, that kundalini energy, that feminine, that divine feminine spirit at the base, at the root, that root chakra came up, and he got enlightenment, which is between heaven and earth, and he met God for the first time. And then we have the biblical text, of course, that keeps telling us, Yeshua said, the kingdom is within, the kingdom is within, the kingdom is within, the kingdom is within. Yeshua keeps saying, I of myself can do nothing. So when he says, I of myself can do nothing, he is telling you that me by myself, my vessel, I can't do shit. But when I am enlightened, when I am harmonized, when I go to the kingdom within where I meet my God self, I can do everything. You can do everything. He says, you and me, what I can do, you can do, and you can do it better than me. So now here we have, again, more connections. Nobody's making it up. It's all here. It's all here. There's no need to make it up because it's here. And then again, another thing that points out that's just so significant to me when it comes to the connections is, I don't know how many times in biblical text Jesus said, like, why are you asking me what's good? I don't know. I got my own problems. Why are you asking me what's good? Why do you call me Lord and not do what I tell you to do? Jesus never wanted to be worshiped. Ever. He never wanted to be worshiped. Buddha never wanted to be worshiped. Krishna never wanted to be worshiped. Allah never wanted to be worshiped. They never, ever, ever indicated there was some sky daddy outside of ourselves. All of them across the board said it's within. Go within. Practice the single eye. What's the single eye? The third eye. What does the Cyclops have in Greek mythology? A single eye. And if you really look at the biblical text and you look at the resurrection story, which I'm going to get into that on a different day, Venus received help from the Cyclops so they could overthrow Saturn. So Uranus, which is heaven, could be back with his wife, which is Gaia, who was earth. And they gave birth to the sun. So I've been questioning this for a while now. Yeah. Isn't it crazy? Let me plug in my phone because it's about to die. I'm sorry. Isn't it crazy though? It's so wild. It's just like, man, why didn't y'all just tell us this in the first place? But it always has been and always will be about control. Hold on. I don't know why this is not working. Sorry, I gotta charge my phone. I don't know why it doesn't want to play nice in the sun box. It's always about control. None of these people want to be worshipped. Why is this not working? So when you do the math, you know, math starts mathing. You do the right kind of math. Hold on, y'all. My phone is about to leave us. And I ain't gonna have y'all no more in a minute. Okay, there we go. We got to charge. Okay, we got to charge. I was like, oh, I started panicking. Like, oh, don't die on me. Don't die. I'm done. I ain't anybody asked for you. So that's what it is with Jacob's ladder. Again, it's telling you as above, so below, heaven and earth. It makes so many references of heaven and earth. And just, if you balance within, you're going to be whole. Yes, your spirit is sacred. Your spirit is absolutely sacred. But you need balance to become whole. W-H-O-L-E, not holy. You're already sacred. We are amazing beings. Thank you for subscribing. We are amazing beings and we always has been. So I want to, ooh, yeah. Ooh, I think I want to tell y'all this. Here we go. Speaking of the kingdom. Speaking of the kingdom. Let me see where it starts. Speaking of the kingdom. It says, kingdom of God of heaven. When in his teaching, Jesus liked the kingdom of the heavens to various conditions in earth. He was explaining in terms that the outer man could grasp the various laws and relations of the spiritual realm or the kingdom of the heavens. The kingdom of the heavens is the orderly adjustment of divine ideas in man's mind and body. Everything you just stated makes more sense. Everything you said, it just makes more sense than what I thought for years. Because isn't it just like, it's wild, you know what I mean? Like it's wild. It's okay. Yeah. Trust me, I've been there. I've been there. So it says the kingdom of heaven is the orderly adjustment of divine ideas in man's mind and body. Jesus definitely located the kingdom of God, heaven, when he said, "The kingdom of God cometh not with observation, neither shall they say, lo here or there. For lo, the kingdom of God is within you." Luke 17:20-21. In order to find this kingdom, man must become conscious of divine mind and its realms of divine ideas, and be willing to adjust his thoughts to the divine standard. Man adjusts his thoughts world to the kingdom of divine ideas through a process of denial by which he eliminates from consciousness and all inharmony ideas, and through affirmations of truth by which he establishes himself in harmony with divine ideas. Heaven is not confined to man's consciousness. It is everywhere present. As above, so below. We don't have to wait to not be of this earth to find heaven. We do not. And it has never been the case. It has never, ever, 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 ever been the case. So, I think I want to read to you all from all the things. So I think this is as far as I'm going to go with the creation story, but I want to read a couple things in this big book and give you a couple definitions just to connect some more dots. You know what I'm saying? And I have this all in notes. I need to type this up so people, if they want to, they can just download it. I have so many notes. Let's see. I think I want to do... not that one. Hold on. Did I talk to? No, this is witnesses. The temple was Jerusalem and represents the place of worship in the heart center. Oh, here we go. So let's talk about the two witnesses, right, in the book of Revelations. I did say I was going to give a review over the book of Revelations anyway. So where are those notes? Because there's so much in my brain. What is this? Oh, that's talking about how we know the Bible was coded. In the book of Revelations, I'm going to have to redo some of this because the book of Revelations it's majority of it's the Kabbalah. Okay. Now, the Kabbalah is normally associated with the Jewish sector. However, again, the Kabbalah comes from esoteric, Hermetic, Kemetic, Egyptian mysteries, knowledge. That's where it came from. There is, again, I had talked about when I talked about the whole Jacob's ladder, that's in there, about the 7 chakras, or the 7 seals. But it talks about the two witnesses, right? It says the two witnesses in the book of Revelations. Now, my interpretation of the two witnesses were that the two witnesses were the closure of these two eyes and focusing on that pineal, seeing seeing through that singular eye that the biblical text tells us to. Practice the single eye. How do you practice the single eye? You meditate. You practice the single eye by meditation. And you do this in a dark place. They say in the biblical text that the temple is made, like the temple was made in silence. And when you pray in the darkness. What are two things that you do during meditation? Silence and darkness. Why? Because in darkness, the pineal gland, which is the third eye, stimulates more melatonin in the darkness. The light, the melatonin reduces. Okay? So the two witnesses are the closure of the eyes. The two thieves are that was crucified alongside of Jesus are the two eyes. Okay? Get into that later. But it says the witnesses, 2 of Revelations 11:3, and the 2 anointing ones of Zechariah chapter 4 verses 14. It says, while we believe that there is an outer interpretation to all prophecy, we know that there is only an inner interpretation. And since this is the more necessary in our overcoming, we always seek to give the scriptures an individual meaning or explanation. According to the first chapter of Revelation, the whole book is the picture of a redeemed man. Not apocalypse. Remember I tell you the apocalypse is not in the Bible at all, anywhere. It's not. It's not. So let me find my, so the first chapter of Revelation, the whole book is the picture of a redeemed man. Therefore, there is no doubt that the 11th chapter is representative of an inner work, something that will take place in each one as he is being transformed into the perfect image and likeness of God. Revelation chapter 21 verse 15 reads, and that he that spake with me, he had for a measure a golden reed. 11th chapter we read, and there was given me a reed like unto a rod. And one said, rise and measure the temple of God and the altar and them that worship therein. Things are sometimes measured to find out not their size, but their true value. I'm sorry, that was butchered. The temple was in Jerusalem and represents the place of worship in the heart center. In the heart center. Isn't there a heart chakra? In the heart center. Jerusalem being symbolic of the center in consciousness. The altar would be the consciousness of full concentration. What's this? Consurrection. I almost cursed. I can't curse because I have an agency. And they said that, like, I almost cursed. Okay. The altar would be the full consciousness. To be the consciousness of full, consummation that takes place first in the temple of worship. Present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your spiritual service. Them that worship therein are in the true spiritual thoughts in man that love and worship God. Those who are in the process of overcoming realize that, as Paul tells us in Romans, within them are the carnal mind, or the outer personal self, and the inner or Christ consciousness of truth. The putting off of the personal is a gradual work which begins after a full consecration to God on the part of the individual, and until it is entirely overcome, there is often war in heaven within him. So the court which is without the temple, that hath been given unto the nations and was not to be measured, represents the carnal thoughts or states of consciousness, conscious and subconscious, that have not yet been redeemed. Until they are lifted up and redeemed, They, to a certain extent, tread underfoot or keep from perfect expression and demonstration the spirituality or God consciousness within man. So, didn't I tell y'all that this is all about consciousness? This is about the evolution of consciousness within the human being. The trees are the nerves, the birds are the thoughts, the floods are the thoughts. It's all symbolism, and it's always been symbolism. It's always been symbolism. And just as the commandments, which I will go over those at a different time, because right now I'm even tired of like talking. Hold on, here's the temple. Let me give y'all this one. I'm going to give y'all this one, and then I'm going to leave on that because I'm going to pop back on. I promise. I say I'm going to come back on tonight. I'm going to really come back on tonight because I have to start taking this seriously. So it says temple. Remember how I told you that the temple is the body. So is the altar. The altar is also the body. We've also confirmed that Jerusalem is the heart. Okay. So the temperance, I don't know if y'all ever followed tarot, but if you follow tarot, you have this lady that's pouring water. She has like this chalice or this vase, and she's pouring water into like a pond. And the temperance in tarot is always represents patience, right? So even here in temperance, it says temperance is the control and satisfaction under the divine law of the desires of the soul. So it's patience, right? But the temple, it says Solomon's or the house of Jehovah in 1 Kings chapter 6. Solomon's temple is a symbol of the regenerated body of man, which when he attains it, he will never again leave. The enduring temple is built in the understanding of spirit as the one and only cause of all things. In 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verses 19 and in the 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verses 16, we learn that man's body is the temple or the house of God. History says that the magnificent, who is this? I'm going to invite somebody up here and they better not be like, did they wrong this? I don't know what it is about my algorithm or what I'm doing that's prompting this to happen, but it does. And this is why I haven't this is why I haven't been inviting people on. They'll fall off on their own, so just don't even pay attention to them because I muted them so they can't hear me. So if they can hear me, they're going to fall off. Let's see. So it says, history says that for magnificent splendor and cost, Solomon's temple has never been equaled. It accompanied 3/4 of a square mile and the cost $1 billion. Yet not a vestige of this remains. Several temples have since been built on the stood. So we see that the enduring temple that man is to build is not the outer symbol, but the body temple of Christ Jesus. When Jesus came teaching that the body is the temple, he brought to man the revelation of the enduring temple. We as a race are educated through symbols. The temple of Solomon and the tabernacle that preceded it were object lessons, symbols of true tabernacle that God pitched but not man, of the temple not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. The heavens represent the consciousness. We already went through this. The heaven represents the consciousness of the ideal in each of us. The real temple idea is a permanent abiding place for the ego. The ego must be clothed upon. Man is a series of conscious projections from center, is parentheses ego, to circumference, which is the body. This clothing is made of thoughts. And I will get into that when we get further into the book of Revelations. We are told by physiologists that the whole organism is built cell by cell and destroyed cell by cell. The builder of the house uses brick and mortar, and to this we have a correspondence in bodybuilding and character in building. So, with that being said, because this is also like a really long one, and I'm going to end on that note because I'm going to come back later. With that being said, actually I think I'm going to talk in depth about the book of Revelations later. So if y'all want to come back later. I'm going to go in depth again about the book of Revelations if you have not attended my live and already heard about that one. So again, when we incarnated and we got involved in being consumed with the physicality of life in the earth realm, we also got consumed with our body, building our temple. We were so focused on, and still are today, so focused on what we look out externally that we do not focus at all on the harmonizing of ourselves that happens within. When we talk about Solomon's temple, this is a perfect example of that. How it was never talking about a physical being. It was never talked about an outward building. It's always been about building ourselves in silence, in the darkness, and going within to access and become whole within our whole mind, which is our God self. So, that is really what the story of creation is about. Cosmic psychology, again, it's about us. It's always been about us. Not a God, not a talking snake. It's just not. And it's time that it's become clean about what that really is and what it's really saying in order for us to rise as a collective in consciousness so we can have a better world in its totality. And even if we don't do it, we won't probably see a lot of change or significant change in our lifetimes. But it's for the children, it's for the evolution of human beings and all the rest of the people to come. And so that's what it's all about. And so on that note, thank y'all for joining me. Thank y'all for subscribing. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the shares. I appreciate y'all so much. I will be back later. I promise. I will be back later. I will bring some more stuff. I'm probably going to come back like around, I don't know what the peak time is at nighttime. Maybe like 8 or something. I'm going to pop back in so there's no distraction when the hubby comes home. And I'm going to talk about another book too. Not even about the Kabbalah, because there's a couple other books that I have that I make reference to. And the one big one is Signs and Symbols. Very informative. Thank you. You're very welcome. You are most welcome. So the book of Signs and Symbols. This is a really good reference book. Now that I have a fuller understanding of certain things, it's kind of like meh, but it's still a good reference book to have, which is Signs and Symbols. And then also a really good reference is the Encyclopedia of Spirits. The Encyclopedia of... You are so welcome, my love. You are welcome. The Encyclopedia of Spirits is really good. And the one thing I love about that is it talks to about all of the spirits. It talks to about all of the deities. It even has the Orisha in here. It talks about the colors and their associations, especially if you are into like just wearing certain colors, or if you're into candles, candle magic, whatever the case may be. It tells you what the color green, purple, red, pink, white is. It gives you a little brief summary on dreams. It talks about familiars. It talks about the feast. It talks about the use of fragrances. It talks about transmutation, which is really what the fragrances is for. And then there's certain fragrances that we use when it comes to venerating your ancestors as well. And for me, I was walking away from ancestral veneration, but now that I know that my grandmother is going to be like a very active energy, I'm going to start venerating my ancestors more. And just because I'm getting more personally in my spiritual practices into comedics. And now that I'm putting all the things together and I'm doing more research and stuff like that, I realize that's what all of my dreams have been about. That's where all of my spiritual downloads have been about. It's been pointing me that direction this entire time. And I kind of didn't know that. So now that I'm doing that, going into that information and that knowledge, if y'all want to learn about that too, I can teach about that as well. From what I know, because it's the Kabbalah, it's all that stuff. But there's just specific fragrances and stuff when it comes to ancestral veneration. And you can and the thing that I like about all the knowledge that I have is that you can still, whatever your spiritual journey is, and I promise after this I'm gonna leave. Whatever your spiritual journey is, whatever it is for you, you can still take the core of these fundamental basics and you can apply that. If you want to stay a Christian and follow the ways of Yeshua ben Joseph in the Christian mythology, you can do that. If you want to take the basics of this and use this towards some of the African cosmology where you want to do Ifa or any of that stuff, yes, there's some varying differences. However, especially Ifa in particular, that is just African cosmology. Again, all of it is all points to cosmology. You can still take the basis of this fundamental information and utilize it for whatever your spiritual practice is going to be. You do not have to be a particular denomination. See, my spirit guides definitely sent me here. Oh yeah, you know it. Because there is no, when it comes to spirituality, there is no one book, especially when it comes to comedics. There is no one book that everybody is supposed to read and follow. You can have the fundamental core of what you need for your spiritual journey, whether you want to stay religious sector or whether you want to do spiritual freedom, and it all applies because it's all connected anyway. I have pointed out at least 3 or 4 similarities in different cultural mythologies where they all meant the same things. So it all applies because when you do this, when you venerate your ancestors, you're still going to meditate. You're still going to meditate. You know what I'm saying? When you offer them food, when you burn different resins or herbs or anything like that, it's the stuff that they were using in the biblical text. It's the same stuff that they were using in Egyptology. It's the same stuff that they're using in African cosmology. It's the same stuff that they're using in Greek mythology. Roman mythology got weird because they was doing real sacrifices to the planets. That got a little strange. But it also applies and you can use it, and that is the point of it all because our journeys are different. They're the same and they're different at the same time. You're going to work with different ancestors. You're going to work with different spirit guides who want to work with you. I'm going to work with different spirit guides and ancestors who want to work with me. Like I've said it many times before, I have Native American spirits that work with me. And drop a Native American in my blood to my knowledge. But they want to work with me. Because my heart is pure. And that's what the message was given to me. Your heart is pure. You're going to do the right thing. And when you have those benevolent spirits who want to work with you and they choose you, ask them, why are you choosing me? Why are you choosing me? And they'll tell you why they're choosing you. That Native American spirit told me, you are pure of heart. That's why it's one to work with me. I don't work with all my ancestors. I work with my ancestors in close proximity, which is my mom, my uncle, and now my grandmother. I have like one grandmother on my dad's side who wants to work with me. And she was a medicine woman, root worker from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 3rd Ward. You know what I mean? I never met her in my life. And she came somebody else to me and told me what she wanted on her altar for me. And told me that she wanted to work with me because I also work with herbs. So it's different, and your practice can be whatever you want it to be. You don't have to do crystals if you don't want to do crystals. You don't have to do fragrances of herbs if you don't want to do that. You don't have to do candle magic if you want to do. See, what's the name of the book you are reading? It's called the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. Or this one is called the Encyclopedia of Spirits. But the other one is called the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. And the cover looks different now. It doesn't look like this anymore. But if, again, I'm about to end the live. I love y'all so much. And if you go into the link, I have it titled and linked there. It says the study Bible you didn't know you needed. This is what is used in divinity schools. This is the dictionary that the the teachers use. So it's crazy to know that this is a reference point that they use, and then the biblical text was still taught the way that it's been taught, which makes me angry. And I've had 3 other ministers who have, in totality, 60 years of experience between all of them, which means they have about 20 years of experience apiece, that said, what you were saying is true. We've all been taught this, and we've all been told not to teach this because it goes against what they've been teaching in Christianity. So that was comforting for me, because when you've been indoctrinated for so long, and you know the math don't math right, and you know there's something else, there's something different, there's something more, because your spirit keeps telling you to keep digging. Keep digging, keep digging, keep digging. You keep having downloads. You keep having, like, your ancestors come to you and say, no, keep going, keep digging, keep digging. You're almost there, you're almost there. I cried when they told me that, because I said I knew it, and I knew I wasn't crazy, and I felt like I was doing something wrong because of indoctrination. So keep going. Keep going. Whatever resonates with you is for you. And don't feel any kind of way if you, on your journey, certain things that you loved as far as your spiritual practice no longer resonate with you. That's okay. Because just like we outgrow people in life, just like we outgrow circumstances, just like we outgrow clothes, you outgrow certain spiritual practices. And if it comes back around to where you can utilize it again, perfect, cool, great. Utilize it again, you already know what you're doing. If not, that's okay, because you're going to find something else in its place. This has been my thought since for as long as I could remember. Math never mathed for me. No, it never had. I'm telling you, I promise you, I was the child that got beat. I was the child that got beat, because when I asked questions as a child, I was told not to question God. And I was just like, but I don't want to burn in hell. And I'm trying to figure out why I'm burning in hell. Like, why I got to burn. Imagine being traumatized. You're being forced as a child to sit down and watch these movies that are scary. It's like a scary movie. Exactly. I'm not good in math. Yeah. No, it's just a child being forced to watch a scary movie that you're being told it's a biblical story. It's frightening. I don't want to burn. If I don't do what? Like, God never commands. The Most High never commands. Sitting in church at a point like, wait a minute, what are y'all talking about? Right. Sitting in church like, wait one damn minute. Huh? And then too, like, there's so many contradictions within the biblical text. And when you point out the contradictions, that's another thing they tell you. Oh, well, what do you mean don't question? This don't make sense. Your own words don't make sense. And then my thing that I love people tell me all the time, well, that's the Old Testament. So we don't use the Old Testament anymore. We use the New Testament. And, Jesus saved us from all that stuff in the Old Testament. And it's like, well, if we don't utilize the Old Testament anymore, then why is it still in the Bible? Why are y'all putting it in the Bible? And why do we constantly make references to the Old Testament, especially when it comes to man and woman, the creation story, and how we are supposed to be a helpmate to our spouses? Y'all still use it, but no, we don't use them. We don't use the Old Testament anymore. Okay. That's fine. You know? It doesn't make sense. And no, it's a new dawn and it's a new day. It's a new dawn and a new day. And I'm so glad for my people. I saw that so many of my subscribers were Black women, and I love it. I love it, and I'm grateful for it, because we have, and not to exclude anybody, but we have had a significant amount of trauma. I promise, my best friend says the other day, she's in classes now. I'm telling you, the way that they do stuff, the way that we've been taught, we've had so much trauma because of this text, and to be made inferior, and then, you know, just couple in the other stuff that the biblical text promotes, which is racism and bigotry and everything else. So now you know, again, like I said, it made me feel some type of way to read this broken down text, this dictionary, and to see that they still refer to Egypt as referencing the lower version of the person, lower consciousness. I'm like, why we gotta do that? But again, when you go back to the early dynasties, the Greeks were on a bullshit. They were. They thought it was inappropriate for so much knowledge to come from African descended people. You know? And it sucks. And when we go down history, which we have to go down history, we have to go down history in order to understand where we're going in the future. And when you see, like, this has been going on since the early dynasties. They don't even talk about the early dynasties. They don't talk about the early dynasties. You don't hear mentions, especially in church. You don't hear mentions of that when you're doing Bible study, because I know a lot of y'all, especially if y'all grew up in church like I did, y'all had like Wednesday night Bible studies on Saturday, prayer ministries, prayer calls, vacation Bible school. Nobody ever mentions history. Nobody ever mentions science. Nobody ever talks about the fact that we've physically evolved as mammals. That is fact. Nobody argues about that. Bible school is 7 a.m. Yes. For what? To tell me that I'm beneath people because I'm a woman? I'm less than because I'm black. Like the book of Isaiah has some weirdness in it about don't look upon me because I'm black. What? Huh? Why is it in there? Why is it in there? Yes, love. Come on. Come on. You can do it. You missed. You missed. Come on. It's like, why is it in there? No. I realized that I couldn't deconstruct and decolonize and still be... Exactly. I realized that, she said, I realized that I couldn't deconstruct and decolonize and still believe in the Christian God. Absolutely. And I wanted to make a video on that. But I'll say, you know what? I ain't going to choose violence today. I was just like, there's no way you can be black and be a Christian. It's an Aryan religion. It is. And people want to argue that. It's like, even if you're Jewish or if you're Hispanic or Latin, you shouldn't be a Christian because it's an Aryan religion. You know what I mean? So I couldn't do that anymore. And I'm working on that internally, because when I read the text and now I get the symbolism of it, and I said, you know what, I could rock with Jesus. Because he was that dude, you know, I could rock with that mythology. He was that dude. I have always felt spiritual and never knew where to become. And then I found you I'm glad you found me too. We're supposed to learn and teach. This whole mentality everybody has about like eating their young when it comes to the spiritual community. That's why I saw somebody do a live. And she's like, oh, spirituality is bootleg Christianity. And I said, huh? Girl, you traumatized. Exactly, but I praise God and thank you, Jesus. Right. Yeah, that girl said Christianity was bootleg, spirituality was bootleg Christianity. I'm like, girl, you traumatized. And it, rightfully so, because a lot of people, not say rightfully so, but a lot of people come over from structural religious systems and realize that there's monsters over here in the spirituality community. And they're taking a lot of that indoctrination because they haven't truly healed. That's the thing. That is the thing when it comes to the spirituality community. You see these people and they put themselves in these superiority positions as leaders. And when you see how they act and you see how they teach and the things that they say to people, they haven't healed from their religious trauma. They haven't been doing their shadow work. So now we have two bullies. They keep saying that they're trying to help people, but then we want to eat the young. We want to eat people who are currently going through spiritual awakenings. We want to eat the younger people who want answers. There's no gatekeeping of the fundamental basics. The basics is for everybody. Now, when you go into closed practices, that's something different. Your own ancestors should tell you that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. If that stuff is not meant for you, you should have, if you're going through a spiritual awakening, you should have some kind of direction as to where you are being led, whether it is still telling you to follow Christianity. Because like I said, when it comes to Jesus or Yeshua ben Joseph, if you actually read the story and see how he was really rocking, they was accusing him of being possessed. They was accusing him of being blasphemers. They unalived that man. You said, oh man, he's an activist. I can rock with Jesus. He cool. He that dude. But then now I realize, like, shit, I'm a black woman. They weren't trying to save me. They want nothing to do with me. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, it's interesting. It's interesting. We all have trauma, and we all, once you learn and you get past a certain curve, you are supposed to teach those that are awakening underneath you. And the thing is, and this is why benevolent spirits choose to work with who they work with and give information who they give their information to, is because they know who's going to do the right things with the information that is given to them. You know, so it's interesting. Thank you again, sisters. Made my morning. Bless you and shalom. Bless you too and shalom. Bless you, bless you, bless you. So on that note, y'all, I'm gonna get out of here. I will see some of y'all later, and if not, it's been real. And if you are a subscriber, the classes are coming. Please let me know. Okay, wait a minute. So if you're a subscriber, some people were telling me that they are not being notified that when I go live. And I don't know if subscribers are getting particular notifications for when I go live. So if that case, if y'all have a certain day and a certain time of the week that you want to do the classes and the studies, please let me know and we can work that out. DM me like on Instagram, because I don't follow. Oh, you're very welcome. You're very, very welcome. I don't follow a lot of people on TikTok because there is like all these scammer accounts that's popping up, and somebody is not only posing as my username, but they're also posing as my government name. And they're contacting people and they're trying to get money out of them for readings. I do not do tarot readings. And I don't follow people for that specific reason, because the only way that I can message you or you can message me is if we follow each other. But I keep reporting these accounts to TikTok, and TikTok is not doing anything. And I also reported somebody who made a video with my video content, and TikTok gave me this thing saying that they had no community violations. And I'm like, what do you mean there's no community violations? They're literally pretending to be me, and they're scamming people. Okay. So if y'all have a certain day as a subscriber that you want to do the teachings and the classes and the times, please let me know when you are available, and DM me that on Instagram, and then I will take the majority of the responses, and then we will do it on that date, and I will let everybody know. I will like create a video or something like that. I will let people know that's where we're going to do the particular live subscribe Bible study classes, because we're going to get into it. We talking astronomy, we talking physics. I'm going to tell y'all what the languages that we're really speaking when people are speaking in tongues. Stab. We're going to get into it. It's going to be some good stuff, and then we're going to go into some comedic knowledge. So I love y'all, and I will see y'all later on.